Hi class, and welcome to exercise 14. This takes us through the heart anatomy. And as we look at the heart, some of this will hopefully be a review a little bit from the lecture. We can see the superior and inferior vena cava entering the right atrium. The right ventricle is the chamber below the right atrium, and then our left atrium and left ventricle are on the left side of the heart. Again, the right and lefts to the heart are always named anatomically for how they would lie in a person. Here's the aorta, the major artery that comes off of the left ventricle. The pulmonary trunk comes off of the right ventricle and separates into the right and left pulmonary arteries, which will bring deoxygenated blood to the lungs. And then oxygenated blood will come back from the lungs and enter the left atria via these left and right pulmonary veins. You can see where some of the coronaries artery also lie in those sulci or depressions. So this is just a model of what we would have in lab of a heart. This also labels, you can see how the superior vena cava splits into two, but you can also see the branches coming off the aortic arch. The branch on the right side of the heart is the brachiocephalic artery. The left common carotid artery comes off of the middle, and the left subclavian artery is the branch on the left. Here is a look at the major branches of the arteries of the heart. Here's the left coronary artery and how it will branch into the anterior interventricular. That's also called the left anterior descending, or LAD. This will be the sign commonly blocked, which could lead to an infarction or a heart attack. The circumflex artery goes around the heart. Here's your right coronary artery and the branch off of that. So again, the coronary circuit, the heart itself, needs oxygenated blood to function, and these coronary arteries supply blood to the heart. Here are the arteries in bold of the human heart shown on the model as red blood vessels, and you can just see these bolded arteries and where they're located in a model that we would have in class. Here's the arteries of the human heart shown in a posterior view, so you can see where the right coronary artery comes around the left marginal artery. You have a posterior interventricular artery. Interventricular means between ventricles, so it just kind of goes right down the middle of the heart. Here's a look at the veins of the human heart. So the blood, after it's delivered its oxygen to where it needs to go to the muscle cells of the heart, that blood needs to be drained back into the right atrium. So all the veins will drain into this coronary sinus, which will eventually drain into the superior vena cava to bring deoxygenated blood back to the right atrium. So here are the major veins of the human heart. And the major veins of the human heart as shown on a model we would have in lab: an anterior view, the great cardiac vein, the small cardiac vein. Here's a posterior view. Again, the coronary sinus, is the big kind of major vein blustle that all these veins will drain into, and this coronary sinus will eventually drain into the superior vena cava to bring deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Then we get to an internal view of the heart. We can see our valves are labeled clearly. Your tricuspid valve is on the right. The bicuspid or mitral valve is on the left. Then we have the semilunar valves, are the openings to the pulmonary trunk and the aorta. Here's the interventricular septum, the wall between ventricles. The trabeculae carneae are just the walls of the heart. You can see the papillary muscles will be kind of cone-shaped muscles coming off the walls of the ventricles. Your papillary muscles will connect to these chordae tendineae strings that will attach to the cusps of the valves. You can see here again how your aorta branches into your brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid artery, and left subclavian artery. And you can see the papillary and chordae muscles on the left side as well. Here's a view of the electrical system of the heart. So this shows your sinoatrial node is the heart's pacemaker. So begins that electrical signal or stimulus. And then that electrical stimulus will travel to the AV node located in the base of the right atrium. Then it will travel through the bundle of His. It will separate into right and left bundle branches. And then the bundle branches will end in what we call Purkinje fibers, which will bring that electrical signal to every cardiac muscle cell in the ventricular wall. Here's a look at an ECG or EKG waves and interpreting the different waves. or complexes. So your P wave stands for atrial depolarization, and the PR interval is from the beginning of the P wave to the beginning of the QRS complex. The QRS complex stands for ventricular depolarization, and then we have the QT interval stands for the beginning of the Q wave to the end of the T wave, and then the ST, and then the T wave stands for ventricular repolarization. So you should be able to label these different waves and complexes on an EKG. Here's an EKG showing just a recording strip with the various waves and complexes at different leads. So showing how each lead, and a lead is a particular location of where they would place an electrode on the body, and how the baseline would just be maybe slightly kind of larger or smaller, but all the waves would still be the same. And you can see again labeling the P wave, the QRS complex, and the T wave. That stands for one cardiac cycle, or one cycle of the heart sounds of lub-dub happening. And this just shows cardiac cycles repeating over and over again. And that's the end for this exercise 14 for lab. Thanks for listening, guys.